Back and neck pains or sports-related injuries, they offer safe, natural care to get you back to being you. No drugs or surgery, so it's convenient, comfortable, and cost-effective. And the first consult is free. Worth Chiropractic, 2 convenient locations on Arlington Boulevard. Free consultations, and they'll work with your lawyer and file your insurance. Call 1-800-BACK-DOC today. This is Holton Nailers for my friends at Anson Belts, the belts that I wear. Go to ansonbelt.com to find micro-adjustable, holeless belts with over 30-plus options of a quarter-inch apart instead of your typical 5 holes 1 inch apart, always giving you the perfect fit every time. If your waist fluctuates, Anson Belt is great because you can always find the perfect fit any time of the year. AnsonBelt.com. Over 10,000 combinations to choose from, a belt for every occasion, and the official belt of the Holt Naylor Show.
Spring is in the air at your CBD store. Get 10% off any purchase. Just mention the code SPRING. If you struggle with sleep, anxiety, or pain, their CBD wellness specialist can help. Your CBD store's unique boutique also carries THCA flower and pre-rolls, Delta gummies, pet products, gifts, jewelry, and more. Call ahead for pickup at 9. All right, Aaron, you got me?
Yep.
All right, we'll go ahead and knock it out. Aaron Fitt from D1 Baseball joining us on Pirate Radio Live and live here on Facebook and YouTube. Aaron, we appreciate your time. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, Clip. How are you doing?
Hey, doing fantastic. A week to catch your breath if you're a Pirate fan or certainly a Pirate baseball player with no midweek games this week. But, man, East Carolina is rolling right now, Aaron, and just wanted to get your take on where the Pirates sit nationally and look around the landscape of college baseball. But right now, number 5 in the polls. And, Aaron, obviously that would mean that East Carolina has aspirations of being that top 8 national seed. As far as where they sit now and what they have left, Aaron, what are the chances East Carolina is in that top 8 when the regionals are revealed?
Yeah, that is the big question, right? And certainly right now, if the season ended today, I love their chances to be in the top 8. With a 35-8 overall record and first place in the league by a couple games and a top 8 RPI, and of course they got that highlight, marquee series win against UNC. I think the key for them is just keeping that RPI up. And we just talked about this on our podcast today as well. They kind of need to run the table if they want to keep that RPI in the top 8. Now, you don't have to be a top 8 RPI team to get a top 8 national seed, but we have seen the committee year after year, use that RPI as a crutch, unfortunately. And it seems like every year, they kind of almost go down the list. And I hate that. I think it's lazy. But I think East Carolina, assuming they continue to, dominate the way they have, and they finish, let's say, 12 in the RPI, I think they should still get a top 8 seed. And maybe they will, but it seems like, that could be interesting if somebody else jumps up and makes a run behind them in the pecking order right now. And the moment there's not some obvious teams that have better resumes. I mean, if you look at the teams behind them who are kind of chasing those top 8 spots, I mean, you look at an Oregon State or Wake Forest or Virginia, they all have warts, but one of those teams or a couple of those teams could get hot and jump ECU. And so that's kind of the reality, unfortunately, for a team in the American. I mean, and just look at all the other teams in the conference. There's only one other team in the top 100 in the RPI, and so just East Carolina playing the rest of its schedule, that they're likely going to drop some unless they win all those games, according to the RPI needs report, which you can find at boysworld.com. They basically say, hey, if they go undefeated the rest of the regular season, then they can stay in the top 8. That's going to be hard to do. They could do it. They're really good. They're definitely better than all the teams they have left, except for maybe Duke, who's in that same category. But it's just, you hate to see every year the RPI becomes this crutch for the committee, but you do see it every year. So that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, Aaron, and one thing we were, I don't know if concern's the word, but something we were certainly keeping an eye on is the AAC regular season standings, because the first weekend of play, UTSA knocked off East Carolina 2 out of 3 in that weekend to win the series. And since then, East Carolina's been chasing UTSA, and credit to the Roadrunners. But Pirates finally caught up with them this weekend and surpassed them, and hopefully will not look back in the rear view at that, because we were just saying, as far as metrics go, East Carolina's done awesome in the midweek, has not lost a midweek game since February, won those big RPI battles against the big-time in-state teams. But on the resume, AAC regular season champion, it doesn't carry a ton of weight, but if you're not the champion, it can certainly go against you. So how important is that for East Carolina to make sure they stay? They're 2 games up. I guess technically UTSA has the tiebreaker, but how important is that part of this?
No, it's huge. You're exactly right, Clip. I mean, I think that if you're in a conference like the American, which again, like it's not it's not a bad league, but I mean it's a mid-major conference, and East Carolina's a major program, but they play in a mid-major conference, and if you're in a league like that, you almost have to win your regular season. I think that's kind of like the first box you have to check if you're going to make a run at being a top 8 seed. So. I like their chances certainly to win the regular season title. I mean, they're already 2 games up, and I don't see any real pitfalls on the schedule ahead of them.
Aaron Fitt joining us. Aaron, as you know, we certainly have a major fan base, and I was curious about this, because we're kind of in the East Carolina bubble over here. You hear from everybody and all fan bases. Where does East Carolina rank as far as interaction? I see a lot of questions going your way, and Kendall Rogers and the folks at D1. Where does East Carolina kind of rank on the interaction scale with D1 baseball? And then question 2, who do you hear the most from as far as fan bases throughout the country?
Yeah, ECU is way up there, no question about it. It's such a great fan base. That's why we talk about it every year. I mean, it's an important fan base for our business, because I mean it's a place where they really care, where college baseball really matters. There are a few things I enjoy more in life than going to a regional or a super regional at Clark Eau Claire. It's just such an awesome environment. Every time it never disappoints, and even in the regular season, they get great crowds. It's cool. It's just it's something special that they've built, and I put Southern Miss kind of in that same category. We get a lot of Southern Miss questions, it seems like, all the time. Louisiana, like some of those really, really good, traditional powers that have great fan bases, traditional powers in again, mid-major conferences, if you will. Those, I kind of think of those programs similarly as far as the fan interest and things like that, and the support that they get, and their track records too. And the next step, of course, for East Carolina to join that elite circle is just to break through to Omaha. And I just said it on the podcast today on our show. This is the year. You know what? I'm going ahead and saying if everybody's healthy, I think this is the year. I just think their team is really good, and I think they have experience, lots of winning players. I love the lineup. I mean, we talk so much at D1 Baseball about the 1-2 punch with Savage and Root, which I think stacks up with anybody in the country, and that's a huge reason I'm bullish on ECU. But I think the lineup doesn't get its due. I mean, it's just no breathing space. 1 through 9, and they play great defense, and it's a very complete club.
Aaron Fitt joining us. Big asterisk there as far as health goes. Just saw Wyatt Lunsford-Shinkman kind of maybe get a rest week this past week and didn't see him out there. Also, Zach Root did not start on Saturday, but hopefully that is kind of like you Savage. I think missed a start in the rotation last year and hopefully a rest deal. And then Jake Hunter left the game this weekend. He is being counted on as part-time a third starter and other times a big bullpen guy. So teams are going through this kind of stuff at this part in the country, and East Carolina has been relatively lucky this year, Aaron, when it comes to injuries. And I know in other sports, and I'm assuming college baseball as well, the healthiest team sometimes gets there at the end, right?
That's well said. You're exactly right. And it seems like ECU is kind of managing workloads at a perfect time of year. I actually really like that strategy a lot. As we get into late April and early May, you kind of take some workload management, breaks for guys, make sure that you're peaking at the time when it really matters. And so hopefully there's nothing to be concerned about there. You never know, with this stuff. It's just, pitching is a violent action, right? And so you just hope all those arms are feeling good at the right time. And if they are, it helps that ECU has enough depth that they can cover some of this stuff. I mean, you saw Danny Beal get extended, I believe, out of the bullpen this weekend, and he's such a weapon for him. Like another guy that I feel like is, maybe doesn't get the credit he's due nationally. He's been so good for quite some time now, in his East Carolina career, and just a valuable swing piece that can do basically anything you want. I think that's a really nice luxury for him.
Aaron Fitt joining us. If you're tuned in live, you can throw out a question. And Josh has a good one here. Aaron, we love seeing that number 5 beside East Carolina. And the polls were kind to East Carolina early in the season when they dropped some games. Never really dropped out of the polls. And D1 kept them in there despite some rough play here and there early. But his question is, what does Aaron see as the ceiling for ECU in the polls? Have we hit that ceiling, Aaron? Or could we see a 4 or 3 or even better beside ECU's name?
Yeah, I don't think there's any kind of artificial ceiling. I mean, if they keep on winning and some teams in front of them lose, then they'll continue to move up. I mean, we're not going to cap it. If all the teams in front of them keep, start losing weekends, and ECU could be number 1. We've seen that before. I think UC Irvine comes to mind one year. I think it was 2009. For some reason that sticks in my mind. They were number 1 in at the time I was at Baseball America, number 1 in our rankings heading into the NCAA tournament. And I think they got the number 4 national seed, but they had earned their way to number 1. Louisiana Lafayette in 2014, kind of similar. So maybe ECU is the next team in that group that ends the season number 1. It could happen.
Aaron Fitt joining us. Aaron, question for our buddy Ken Watlington, WNCT Channel 9, UNCW grad. He comes in every Wednesday, talks about UNCW, and he makes it sound like they are looking good for an at-large potentially. What do you think about the Seahawks and them getting in the postseason this year?
Yeah, right now they're definitely in good shape for an at-large. Now it's not a slam dunk because of the RPI. It's 48. Which certainly is a bubble caliber RPI. Usually, if you're in the top 50, you're very much in the mix. But I like the fact that they're tied for first in their league. They've got, I think they're 5-5 against those Q1 opponents, which is a nice little number. And I think they have a really good club. We had them projected as a regional team heading into the year, and they've kind of done what they need to do. Winning a series at Northeastern 2 weeks ago was just huge for them, because that Northeastern team is also very good. It was preseason top 25 for us, and they're 31-11, so they got a nice RPI boost with that weekend. But big one coming up tonight, actually, at NC State for Wilmington, I think, and then they got North Carolina in midweek as well. It's kind of like you were talking about with East Carolina earlier, Clip. If you're in a league like that, you kind of got to make hay in those midweeks, and so some more opportunities ahead for Wilmington. And they've already done a good job. They've beaten Wake Forest, they've beaten NC State, they've beaten Coastal Carolina midweek. So it's so helpful that these teams in the Carolinas, there's so many good teams in this region that everyone can build a really nice midweek non-conference schedule, and that helps everybody's case. It really does.
Aaron Fitt joining us. I'm going to have to use this one at Sports Trivia at AJ's one Wednesday night. Mark Etheridge has an article on D1 baseball. LSU's path to avoid being the third straight College World Series winner to miss the postseason. And that's just a crazy stat, or a little factoid if LSU doesn't make it, but happened to Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and LSU. Aaron, how the heck do you explain that?
Yeah, I don't have an explanation. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's just really weird. I mean, it doesn't. I don't really believe so much in the post-championship hangover thing. I just think, if you're really good and you win a championship, you're probably going to lose a bunch of guys because you probably have a bunch of older star players in your team who are going to go to pro ball or graduate. And so I think some regression is natural, and they've certainly lost, Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz, among others. That's hard to replace, but they still have a lot of talent in their roster, and they've been a bit of a head-scratcher team. We thought they'd be a lot better. They were preseason top 5, and now they're, 7-14 in the league, I think. It's a daunting path. They got to find a way to get to 13 wins in the league, I think, to have a realistic chance, which means they got to win their last 3 series, and one of those series is against the number 1 team in the country, Texas A&M, so it's not going to be an easy road.
Aaron Fitt joining us. Well, I talked to Aaron a couple more minutes, and we got questions coming in. So if you want to get one in, get it in now, and we'll let Aaron run. But here's a couple for you, Aaron, before we let you go. Jonathan, this is a good one. Who is a sneaky good team that will be a 4 seed when the regionals come out? No one will want to see in their regional. Now, different things can happen with the automatic berths and things like that. But as of right now, and you do your projections, Aaron, who's the number 4, a potential number 4 that number 1s don't want to see?
USC Upstate comes to mind as a team that could wind up at a place like East Carolina. I mean, there's a lot of probably options. They most likely would fit at Clemson or South Carolina. But Upstate is a veteran team that was the team to beat in that league heading into the year, and I think they remain the team to beat. I like their team quite a bit. I think they're dangerous. We've got Wright State projected as a 4. They're always frisky. It feels like it's a 4 seed you never want to see in your regional. Bowling Green, last I checked, they were 17-0 in their conference in the MAC, which is crazy. I don't actually know how they did this past weekend, but they've done an incredible job. For a program that was on the chopping block during the pandemic, they tried to cut it and they saved it, and now they're they have the class of the Mid-American, which didn't see that coming, but they seem kind of dangerous too. So there's a few of those. Army has been a team over the years that can be a frisky 4 seed. We've got Lamar right now as a 4 seed. I mean, that's a team that swept Oklahoma, who's the leader in the Big 12. So I don't know that I would want Lamar in my regional, but I wouldn't expect them to get shipped to Greenville. So, there's always a few out there that, Grand Canyon comes to mind. Little Rock has a very experienced team. But, again, those are teams in different parts of the country that you probably don't have to worry about.
Right. Aaron Fitt joining us. One more, Aaron, and Aaron raved about East Carolina's offense top to bottom earlier in this chat, but Johnny says, other than maybe Georgia, do you see any team having a better 1-2 punch at the top of the batting order than the Pirates? So, where is this ECU offense nationally, especially at the top of the order? And Aaron, who are the toughest outs in the first inning and throughout the game at the top of the order across college baseball?
That is a good question. I got to tell you, it's neat to see the year that Riley Johnson has had, because I know Cliff Godwin has topped him up repeatedly over the course of his career.
Yeah.
We're expecting a big breakout year from him a couple of years ago, and I know there's various things, injuries or whatever, just kind of got derailed a little bit. Was a nice piece last year, but he's really made the jump that they always thought he was capable of making. Just a dynamic, compact, strong left-handed hitter who hits for average and draws a ton of walks. I mean, he's been a huge key to their success. And it's just, again, for a guy that had to kind of, bide his time a little bit, and now he's in his, fourth year in the program, I think, and he's broken out, and that's very cool. And obviously, Carter Cunningham's a stud. I mean, he's awesome. Off the top of my head, I mean, I'm sure there are other teams out there that have 1-2 punches that are comparable. I have memorized batting orders for everybody, but those two guys are just dynamic, man. There's no question about it. Really, really good.
Aaron, thank you so much for joining us, man. We'll try to check it down this postseason, talk more baseball with you. But there is a ton going on at d1baseball.com. Tell everybody the highlights and what people can find there.
Yeah, we got a lot going on. Just content galore right now. We do our weekly Nerdcast where we assemble our own Field of 64 projection. That's always a popular thing. We'll be recording that this afternoon and have a fresh Field of 64 projection up tomorrow. That's going to be every Wednesday from here on out. You can find our latest projections and postseason analysis every day, game coverage, all kinds of good stuff at d1baseball.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Aaron, and enjoy the baseball, man. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, thanks, Clip.
All right, Aaron. Have a good one, man. Thank you.
You too. See you.
All right. Bye-bye. And for our folks on YouTube and Facebook, we will see you at 3 o'clock on Pirate Radio Live.